Is up, good people of the interwebs? This is the Nerdy News Hour. It's like the news, but for nerds. As always, I'm joined with two awesome nerds. One of them you haven't seen in a little while. Justin is back. The boys are back in town. Justin, what's going on, man? How have you been?
Good, good. I've just been banned into the dark corners of retail hell for the past couple of weeks, so I'm feeling really good about not having to work today and instead getting to do this. So that's good. I like that.
And you obviously have been playing just a teensy bit of Injustice, correct?
I've just 100%ed the story mode.
God damn
that's all.
Yes, and as always joined with Anime Dan Thomas. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Another week, more nerd stuff. Ready to talk about it? Mostly this game. I'm so loving this game. It's been forever since I played a fighter. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see it on the ticker, guys. We're gonna be I decided to do two Justice 2 topics because I didn't want to do all of them in Justice 2, even though this will soak up the majority of our time. So as I invite people, as I get people in here, everyone should just know that it's going to be an Injustice-heavy show. Please ask us any questions that you have about the game. We would be more than willing to do this kind of super casual. We can answer any kind of questions that you have. Or if you give us ideas, we can always do little more in-depth videos about them as well. But let's pop right off. So the first topic, super fanboy-ish, but it's basically just about our favorite moments in the game so far. I know I got my game a little bit early on Tuesday night. It was like 9 o'clock. Went home, started right into story mode. There was a lot of awesome things that happened in the game, and this kind of foreshadows the next topic, which is contrasting the story in Injustice 2 compared to the story in the DC Extended Universe movies. And, there's some issues there. But, Justin, my friend, what are some of your favorite moments of Injustice 2 so far?
I know you don't want me to go into, super spoilery territory because you have not finished the story mode, and I'm sure a lot of people we know haven't finished the story mode either.
Finished the story mode.
Man,
yeah, so we will freak out.
But man, the alternate ending that is not canon, obviously, is not canon. The alternate ending at the very end of that story mode, choice. Loved it. It was so dark, cool. So insane. So that I definitely loved. And I can't wait to get the costume that you get from that, get the special accessory you get from that, throw it on my dude, and just go ham in the multiverse with that. Going off of that further in the story, I kind of like that Harley Quinn has taken the role of Robin, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah, no, I really like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I found that really interesting. That was something I kind of knew about because I was reading the comics that led up to the game, so I was kind of aware of that. But they really handled that whole situation well. She's still Harley for sure, and I love Bruce. I think one of the moments that popped off to me right away, and I don't want to do spoilers either because I don't know exactly. Dan might actually be ahead of me at this point, but we don't know where viewers are, so we'll keep it non-spoilery. But essentially, there's this moment on the ship where these two heroes find Brainiac, come face to face with Brainiac for the first time, and the way he absolutely just trounces them and just kind of holds them in the air with his tentacles as he's just walking around, I was like, this is amazing. Absolutely. I was fanboying out. I was like, oh man, this is perfect. The representation of his just awesome power. I was like, this is fucking phenomenal. So that's probably one of my favorite moments. The supers are all really cool too. The one thing I really liked about the game, and I did my initial thoughts video where I kind of mark out about the game a little bit. So check that out if you want more of that kind of stuff, I guess. But we played till 5 in the morning. What was really cool was the supers are so good, and the going between levels and everything is so well done that you don't have to know anything about these characters to be excited about what you're seeing on the screen.
It's just badass to watch, for sure. All the supers are great little mini movies, and sometimes in these games you'll you inevitably do a bunch of super moves, so you've seen this one dozens and dozens of times. Yep. They have to be interesting and cool, or else it's going to get real stale real fast. So I think so far I'm still into it. Every time that bat plane drops down from the grappling hook. I'm just like, shit.
I know, it's really, really fantastic. So I'd say that those are probably some of my favorite moments. But Dan, what about you, man? Is there any like hallmark moments so far in either story or multiplayer or anything?
I think the best story I have for it so far is I was playing on the PlayStation 4, which is in the bedroom, and my girlfriend was out here on the couch, and I was going through the story mode, and I was really into it because, like you said, the Harley Quinn chapters in the story are great. This is like Harley Quinn like we really haven't seen at a DC in a while.
True.
Just done really well, funny, hilarious, with very little sexploitation to it at all. She's not being paraded around as a sex object. She's quipping. She has great dialogue with some characters like Scarecrow and whatnot. But I was, in the middle of battling someone and used my special move, and she just has hyenas fucking eat you. And I did it. Like, she knocks you with the dynamite, and I'm like, okay, what's next? And she just sicks them on you. And I was like, Jesus Christ! Like, I yelled that because they just were eating someone alive. And I was like, wow, that was really graphic. And it just has great moments like that where it's like takes it a little bit farther than I thought they would go, and it's awesome. It just keeps me looking for more.
Yeah, man, it's absolutely fantastic. I gotta address the chat real quick. By the way, what's up, everybody? We're talking Injustice way too much today. Please drop any questions that you have about Injustice or anything. But I gotta mention something that Corey said. Corey said that there's a newsarama about Marvel returning to the prequel canon in new Mace Windu series. That is very interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that. They're going back doing a Mace Windu book. Like, yes, please.
Oh, dude, have you read Shatterpoint? Because Shatterpoint was phenomenal.
I don't think I did.
It's about Mace Windu going back to his home planet and them just basically explaining why Mace Windu is such a strong Jedi Master, because he can take complete advantage of Shatterpoints, which are like those moments in history that alter great events. So he just uses that in combat and just goes super deep into that. Phenomenal book. Excellent book. So
that is awesome. Like that. Thank you very much, Corey, for bringing that to my attention. I might do a video on that later today. Keith also says, Keith Crook, what's going on, Keith? Keith says, good stuff today. People that have a 9-to-5 don't know what they're missing. It's true. It's true, they don't, but they can watch the video later on YouTube or Facebook. Michael Watson says he likes I'm assuming you're talking, Michael, about Injustice. You said it's decent so far, so that's pretty cool. But yes,
speaking of Injustice, can I segue into why I was a little disappointed in the story mode? There's just one
I don't know.
I think we're gonna get to that in the second topic, because I still wanted to bring up some of the different features of the game itself. Like the tutorial, for example. Like, I don't play fighting games at all, really, and the tutorial was really, really helpful without being. It didn't have unnecessary. They didn't put cutscenes and shit in the tutorial to stretch it out. It was like they got you the points, you did them once, and then you were done. And then they got into some pretty, I'll call it like advanced topics, like keeping people up into the air and doing things at the right time to dodge, and they give you like a great, like, you flash during that key moment where you have to press buttons, and it really helped me get like, okay, when this happens, I need to be looking to do this. It was very useful.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about Injustice, is that it's going to be a little bit of an easier fighter for newer players like yourself to pick up and play. Because, I mean, you'll look at, like, professional level Marvel vs. Capcom play, and we're talking, like, 70, 80 hit combo juggles, and it's just a very daunting game to pick up. I'm not even that good at it, like, at all. But with Injustice...
In that game, when you get to second health bar, it doesn't soft reset the whole match, right? Because I've been really thankful for that feature, because somebody will tag me with a super really cool. Right at the end of that bar, and I'm like, yes, you wasted that. That was not a good time.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. But with Injustice, it's more about exploiting those opportunities that you get. Get in a couple quick hits, and get in a couple quick hits that deal a lot of damage. I can hit somebody with a Joker juggle, like his crowbar from the back, and then kick them twice in the air with a heavy attack, and have that do like 250, 300 damage depending on what gear I have equipped. And just 3 hits, that much damage. That's the kind of stuff I want to see from these fighting games, and I think that's really, really good. You don't need to basically become a button wizard to be good at the game. You just need to know your character and know the best times to exploit their abilities, and that's how it should be.
And I feel like, honestly, the game is rather deep for a fighter, especially when you compare it to the first game. Now, I know the first game was last generation and everything like that, but simply the gear aspect, the multiverse mode is really cool, like really, really fun.
Best part of the game, bar none.
Yeah,
I love it.
You know, like, I'd have to finish story before I could make that call for sure, and I gotta be honest, I'm in love with the story mode, so it's gonna be tough for me to make that call. But the multiverse mode is so cool, the different modes you can do online with other people, and I've heard rumors that there's even more stuff that they're going to add. So I don't know, man. For me, it feels rather deep, which is really, really good. With the additions of DLC characters, I see the game having a lot of active players for several months, which will be really, really good compared to some of these other games that have completely folded in their first month as far as active players.
And plus on top of that, you don't have to be a competitive fighting game player to participate in the community thanks to the guilds feature. The guilds in and of themselves, you can just go into multiverse gameplay and end up racking up points for your guild and getting mother boxes that way. And on top of that, there are guild events in the multiverse. So you and your guild can essentially do what's a fighting game raid. And just all of you go ham onto this multiverse planet and end up getting tons of points for your guild, and you do feel like your own sort of Justice League doing that.
Okay, so speaking of guilds, Justin, that's quite a good segue you had, because is there...
There is a Den of Nerds guild on Injustice 2 on PlayStation 4.
There will be one on Xbox. I'm just busy, and I'm sorry.
There will be one on Xbox. It's fine. It's fine. I'm actually going to pull up the guild code number on my phone because there's totally a guild code number that you need. So our guild code number is A9GAM.
Cool.
So
we'll put that on the Facebook for sure. We'll definitely have that on Facebook. We'll put it in YouTube videos and stuff too. Honestly, it'd be really cool to play not only with some of you guys, and it's weird. Our fan base is kind of stretched out, right? So the YouTube people, we're gonna have to let them know too. But at the end of the day, if you like some of the content we put out and you like Injustice, we want to smash you in the face with things. So that is the best way we can show our appreciation of you guys as fans. So we definitely want to do the guild, fight each other, and be united also to fight against all these other... We know what we should really do would be cool is to find other YouTube channels that have guilds and poop on them. That'd be real fun.
Dude, you're signing me up for a lot. I am not going to poop on anyone in this game.
I think the number 2 guild on PS4 right now is GameSpot. So guys, let's see if we as a Den of Nerds unit can go ahead and crush GameSpot's guild. Yeah,
GameSpot, I think we got more hardcore people.
Giant Bomb, I think Giant Bomb is guild as well.
We got more hardcore people, I think. Lawrence says that the show looks awesome. Thank you very much. I did a podcast with Lawrence last night talking about my Robin Hood book. But it's so funny, guys. We totally got into DC movies. I don't know how it happened, but we got on the topic of DC movies, and I shit all over DC movies again. It's like everywhere I go, it's like everyone's just like, "Yo, DC movies, your thoughts?" And I'm like, "How much time do you have?" But so what's up, Lawrence? Thank you very much. Michael says he's going to join our guild, so hell yeah, brother.
The name is the Den of Nerds. That is the name. We figured we keep it simple.
And I better do that on Xbox. Don't you dare anyone make that guild on Xbox One that's watching this, because I need to do that, and I will do that. Holy crap, don't do it.
Too late. Now we have to make it something stupid.
With like 3 Z's, the Den of Nerds.
I just want to throw out some terminology we've been saying, just in case someone hasn't played the game yet and they're thinking about getting it, if this doesn't convince you. We're saying this, the multiverse mode, and that's this really cool one-player mode where they will generate a whole bunch of different little scenarios, which will have certain characters fight each other for little reasons, then you earn various rewards by completing those. And what's interesting is they have, between 5 and 6, I think, available at a time, like these groups of missions. and they'll be available for different periods. So like this one will be available for
Right,
9 hours.
that's one of the cool
this
moments,
one's here for an hour and a half. It's like, wow, I gotta crush this one out if I want to get these rewards.
Yep.
They always get replaced by something else, so don't, clearly this is their time spent in app device to try and get you like, oh man, I need to do this one or it's going to go away. Actually, it's going to be replaced by another one right after that. But it's really cool, and it's definitely a way to keep you very invested in playing in case you get your ass beat constantly by real people and get tired of that after a while and you want to just play the game. Great way to do it.
Yeah, they have a lot of interesting different scenarios. I was playing one yesterday where there was this ice storm the entire time, raining down, and you had to like dodge icicles. Yeah, that
so
was
cool,
awful.
man.
There was
that's
another
awesome.
one where they were dropping power-ups on the stage that you didn't want to pick up because these power-ups would take away portions of your health bar. So you wanted to basically kick your opponent into those power-ups to deal extra damage. That was my favorite one so far. There was another one they have up right now for people who pre-ordered the game specifically and got Darkseid. It's this big mode where you can only play as Darkseid across these 4 stages, and it's a way to get a lot of decent gear for Darkseid, and you end up getting an epic headpiece for Darkseid at the end after a very, very grueling battle with Superman. It took me about 45 minutes to beat Superman.
Damn! No, that's awesome. And I like how you can help the guild out by doing that too. Like to your point, like if you can't be really good competitive PvP, go into multiverse mode, you can still get loot for the guild. That is very cool. Man, they did a great job with this game, man. Justin, 10 out of 10 sounds good.
Very good.
No,
very
good. All right, cool.
I will say very good.
Should we mention the loot system or the gear at all? Because here's this picture from like a drop. And it's you collect these costumes and pieces of armor as you complete missions and do various single-player activities and complete achievements. You get different tiers of boxes called mother boxes, and they have some different items in them. And there's like 5 different kinds of those to collect, and you can get some every day. It's a blast. I love little blind buy things.
You get a ton of mother boxes, and that's great. I just wish they had been able to restrain themselves and not been like, yo, if you go onto the PlayStation Store, you can go ahead and buy yourself 50,000 credits and get yourself a bunch of gold mother boxes for like $19.99 or something like that.
That doesn't even hurt. It doesn't even hurt that game. Look, Justin and I like totally opposite end of the spectrum on this. And I understand, like, I get your point. My thing is, microtransactions are good because there's people out there that don't have time, but they have money. So that's okay. It's good for them to be able to get what they need.
But the reason I'm okay with them in Overwatch is because it's purely cosmetic. It doesn't do anything to alter your stats.
In ranked, it's cosmetic anyway, right?
Yes, it is.
So there, you know what I mean? That's kind of
that is the nice balancing act that I will totally give them. I'll totally give them that.
Nice. Okay, so we've been talking for almost 27 minutes about our first topic. So let's roll into our next topic.
Boom. All right.
Bada boom.
Injustice 2.
Injustice 2. Oh, good. Okay, so in this, Michael, let's just real quick, I want to address the chat. Michael says he dislikes that aspect so much too. So he doesn't like microtransactions here. So you have a friend, Justin. But let's hop into this. I think this is kind of an interesting topic. So I was thinking about what do we want to do with Injustice? How can we tie this into the bigger narrative of storytelling? You know, some of the stuff we cover at the Den here. Like I said, last night I got wrapped into the conversation about DC movies. Again, it's a thing. Wonder Woman's right around the corner. We've covered Wonder Woman on the show several times. Talked about it last night with Thomas and Lawrence and those guys. Look, a lot of hopes rest on the shoulders of that movie. We want these movies to be good. Here's the problem. The story mode in Injustice, at least so far to me, is fantastic, and it makes the movies look even worse. It makes me literally look at the movies and be like, have these people ever read a comic in their life? Like, ever. Because despite having big differences, character turns that almost, feel out of place, a lot of bombastic video game stuff going on in the story. Despite all of that, the emotional threads of these characters are intact. You get it. You understand. It's so good. Like, can I just say so good many, many times and maybe you'll understand.
My brother reads a ton of comic books, Jake Thomas, and he made a great comment on my Facebook page about how the Injustice comics themselves are, he thinks, much better than, for instance, Civil War by Marvel, because it's not canonical. It doesn't have to restrain itself to continuity, and thus there's actual consequences. Like, Superman can just have decided to kill people and be mean, and that's what he decided to do. It's not going to be mind control. He's not going to snap out of a dream at the end of it. This is like real character plight and peril, which is good and feels good. And sometimes you don't get that out of comic books because you know they're going to be okay at the end of the day.
True.
Yeah.
No, that's a fair point. The comics leading up to the thing are actually pretty fantastic. And I think that's another reason why the Injustice series itself, after the first game, I think did so well, because it, so to speak, wasn't held hostage by its own canon, which is really, really cool. But when it comes to the movies, it just feels like they don't utilize aspects of the character as tools. You know what I'm saying? Like, as tools. Like, this is one of the things that I think Logan especially excels at, is that it takes aspects of the Logan character and utilizes it so that you have a resonance, an emotional resonance with the decisions he's making and the conflicts that he feels. You get it because you're like, well, if you're Logan, shit, this, you know what I mean? Or if this happened to you, this. He loves Professor, you know what I mean? Like, we kind of like know these things. It's very cool, and the game does that really, really well. So, what do you think the big problem here is? And Justin, I want to start with you because you finished the story mode, and you said you love that alternate ending. What can you say as far as what lessons should the cinematic universe learn from Injustice 2, if any?
As far as what Injustice 2 did, I do want to definitely speak to what Dan said. It seems like these reactions that these characters take have consequences, and that actually makes you feel suspenseful and all that on the end of your seat. I'm going to go ahead and spoil Batman vs. Superman, because who the hell cares? But when Superman dies at the end, you just know he's not dead.
There's no resonance. Dude,
you don't care.
Yeah, you don't care at all.
It's just no big deal. It's also stupid in the way he dies, because why couldn't Wonder Woman stab Doomsday with the trident thing? Like, why couldn't she do that? Why couldn't that happen? Like, Lois Lane was useless. There's just... I'm going to stop talking about the problems of that movie. Martha! But
this game even had a better Martha. First 5 seconds is just hey, that was awesome.
Yeah, like when Superman killed the Joker, the original Injustice, you're like, oh shit, Joker's dead. And the way Injustice 2 utilized Joker in this game, because he is utilized, I'm not going to say how. Perfect. It was great. It spoke to the character of the Joker, and on top of that, more than absolutely anything, it showed the impact that the Joker has on the entire DC universe as a whole. Like, this just crazy man with no superpowers has this huge impact on everything. And that was something we didn't get from Suicide Squad. Like I'm one of those few people that's okay with Leto's Joker. I'm okay with it. It's all right. Just they didn't push the Jokery parts of the Joker enough in those movies. Like, you got in Injustice all of these great little Joker moments. Joker's Super is an excellent Joker moment. But with Leto's performance, all you got was that moment where he's just laughing in that circle of guns and knives, which I thought was a very well done and excellent scene. And that was it. That was the only Joker thing you got from that. And he was just a regular gangster for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Totally. They're not utilizing these years and years of characters
just
that they have.
Small instances too. It's not even just the big cutscenes, but like, have you clashed against Wonder Woman as Batman? Like, have you done the clash? You do the clash, they like zoom up against each other, slam, and then both players deliver like a little quip, and then it's called clashing in the game. And when you do Batman versus Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman is like, Damian Wayne hates you. And Batman goes, you can have him, and just doesn't give a shit. I was like, damn, Batman, that's cold.
That's amazing.
That was those are always great. Those
there's little moments.
They zoom in.
I agree.
Like, pow, pow.
It's so contextual. It's so contextual. Like in one of the first moments in the game where Damien gets hit off gliding, and like his father, instead of like making sure he's okay, just says your gliding needs work, and it's just so Batman. Like everything they say is just it's to the core correct, in a line with the character.
If one thing bothers me, and I'm sure you'll go into more detail, Justin, about this, but the one thing that bothers me in the whole story mode, and it's totally reasonable for a fighting game, but it feels like there's one extra conflict that didn't need to happen. Like, you'll have beat somebody up and you're about to go do something, and then Deadshot's like, oh, what's up? And it's like, why are you here too? But
so that we can fight.
Very small amount of those even, and they do a great job. Like when Dr. Fate showed up the first time, that could have been one of those like what the hell, but I was like, what the hell? It was great.
That was in the comic, and it was so cool in the comic, and I love how a lot of this stuff's paralleling. And the one thing that the mobile game, I'm very thankful that I didn't get too deep on that story because it pretty much parallels the game. Like, there's additional stuff in the game. Yeah, it's the same story. But the stuff from the comics is kind of being retold, but in like a different way. So I dig that. Like, it's very, very cool. So yeah, the Dr. Fate thing was cool. So Dan, let me just ask you this: like, what is the lesson? Like, if we had to say, like, okay, Den of Nerds gets in a boardroom with the people at Warner Brothers, right? And they're like, hey, first of all, you guys are awesome. Here's $1 million. But then after that, they're like, what do we do to make our movies not suck? And we pull up a chart, a flow chart perhaps, of Injustice 2. What are we telling these guys? Like, what's the lesson here? To Dan, sorry.
Why is Injustice 2 story so compelling? I think within the first scene with all these characters, they're immediately characterized. So if I didn't have a huge background with Batman, I could still see, whoa, this guy is calculating and he's very callous to the people around him. And then the very next cutscene you'll see with him and Damien, I'm not going to spoil anything, but you'll be like, wow, yeah, he really doesn't get along too well with people he probably should get along with. This whole mask thing gets in his way. So I learned all that from watching Batman in 2 90-second cutscenes. And it takes you a long, like, sometimes you don't learn that at all from characters in these DC movies. They just don't have the substance to them. And that's what you want, is you want an interesting character to do an interesting thing. You can't have interesting characters just standing around and looking as interesting characters. That doesn't work. That's not interesting. And you can't have stupid, unrelatable, or unlikable characters doing an interesting thing because you won't care. They're stupid and unlikable. So this made really good. Like, I was laughing when Harley Quinn was doing jokes and quips and like hiding a knife in her belt as she's talking about what good friend she is. I was like, lol, that's great. That's what I want to see out of Harley Quinn. Do that. Harley Quinn's allowed to be funny. The Joker is allowed to be crazy and not sexy. Just do that.
Right. Just quit trying to make sexy Joker happen.
He's not sexy. Acting. He's not a sex symbol. He's an insane man. It doesn't make any sense. He lives in the street.
You know, when they got Jared Leto to do it, I was like, you know what, that's just such a great choice. You know, I think 30 Seconds to Mars Pretty Boy Joker is gonna work.
And he's a damaged guy, so we'll put damaged on him. And he hates Batman, so his tattoo is him stabbing the bat symbol. These are the things that the Joker is. His hair is green, so we'll make his hair green. Great job.
It reminds me of, look, all great writers and creators. I think at the end of the day, do you think, Justin, let me ask you this directly. Do you think that is it fandom? Like, are these games being made by people that are huge fans of the character and the source material, as opposed to in Hollywood, where we get a lot of people that probably
Zack Snyder
aren't? Well, to be fair, I don't know if Zack Snyder is one of those guys. That's just
Zack Snyder, I will say, has said he doesn't want to make a Martian Manhunter movie because he doesn't think people will like John Jones at all. He doesn't think John Jones is a compelling character. So, on what you just said. Zack Snyder does not like comic books. But yes, I completely agree. I think if you are going to make an adaptation, whether it be a film or a book or a game, then you as a director, as a writer, need to do your homework. You need, like when I forget the actor's name, but the guy who plays the Punisher in the Marvel Netflix series. He went to a comic book store and bought a stack of Punisher books.
Hell
and
yeah!
Then when he went
and the dude, right?
Yeah, the dude behind the counter was like, okay, you don't want these Punisher books. You want this, this, and this. And instead of just being an asshole about it, he was like, okay, I trust your recommendation. I'll read these Punisher books.
For sure. Such a great point to bring up. By the way, who is this guy? Because we have the best Punisher ever now. And that comic book clerk needs a goddamn raise and some other shit, too. So, no, very good point. That was well put. All right, well, let's. What do you think, guys? Can we roll on? Because look, we could honestly spend the whole show.
Can I just really quickly talk about the few things I was disappointed with?
Oh, Dan, he keeps trying to sneak that in.
You got it.
I'm gonna.
Why does it suck, Justin? Why is this a pile of garbage?
These aren't big things. These aren't big things at all. But some character plot lines do get unresolved at the end of it. Okay. You do get things that you just don't get answered at the end of it. And on top of that, it was sort of marketed the way they were doing all the marketing, that there were going to be these whole bunch of like alternate paths and alternate endings you could take in the story mode. There could be a lot of portions of the story where it would end and all that, and there's only 2 endings. So I guess I got built up for that and just ended up being a little bit disappointed. But that's literally all I had to say. I wasn't going to talk shit on the
that's not too bad at all. Never mind.
That's not bad.
Those points need to be addressed.
Yeah, we're okay with that. That was all right. All right, well, that kind of ends our Injustice 2 talk for now. We're going to be doing coverage of the game in the next couple of weeks as well. Do some live streams. Like I said, we're going to get the information to you about the guilds. So look for that on the Facebook so that you can play as a part of the Den of Nerds, the House of Nerd, as it were. But we're going to roll into some more video game stuff. This is a really, really cool topic. The Witcher. Yes, The Witcher, which is a huge gaming franchise, is apparently getting an adaptation on Netflix. This is being produced as we speak. Very, very cool stuff.
Quick note, important note. The Witcher, the game, is not getting an adaptation. This is actually an adaptation of the novels that the game is based on.
Wow,
here, real quick,
that is important.
Here's all the covers. This is in Polish. It was really hard to find a picture of the English covers of these movies or these books for some reason. But here's all the covers, and it's one thing I just want to bring up real quick. But this has nothing to do with the subject of The Witcher, but it's like the people around it. The author of those books does not make any money from the Witcher game franchise, and I was reading some interviews with him. And he makes it a point to say, I was thrilled they came to me when they wanted to create an adaptation of this, this work I've spent the past 30 years writing and be true to its source. He uses the words true to its source, and he uses the words 30 years of writing quite a bit. And I think I don't know if he's jaded or not, but I want to draw conclusions, and it kind of sounds like he's a little jaded about The Witcher 3 taking off and people not knowing about the novels, and I don't know. So, Justin, are you worried? Is a really fan of Witcher 3 going to go into this show and be like, "What the hell is this?"
I mean, The Witcher 3, the Witcher game universe in general, Sapkowski does consider sort of like fan fiction. He considers it non-canonical. He's actually writing a new Witcher book that takes place after the very last Witcher book he released. That ends up, talking about what he thinks actually happened. But he didn't think the Witcher games were going to succeed. He didn't think they were going to take off as they did, so he didn't ask CD Projekt Red for any money when they were just a small 100-man studio making the first Witcher game. Right. And I feel like he's a little bit salty about that.
Sure.
But if anything, the popularity of the Witcher games is going to do nothing but
make the books sell more. Yeah.
The books ended up getting licensed after The Witcher came out, and you can buy them in English, and they're all really good. And the show is going to get a lot of traction, and it's going to be a true adaptation, and I think he's going to like that a lot. Quick note, they did make an adaptation of the Witcher books previously as a live-action show. It wasn't very good, and it was entirely in Polish, but they did do that, and I think they're going back to give it another go. I want to address what Mike Schroeder said in the comments. He said, is this being confirmed as live action? Do you think it would be better as live action or an animation? And the production team that did all of the fantastic CGI trailers for The Witcher 3, which I'll go right ahead and say, Witcher 3 is my favorite game of all time, period. It's the best.
A lot of people believe that, feel that way.
But they have been confirmed to be working on it, so it could very well be a CG series of the Witcher games, which
I wouldn't hate that.
Geralt's voice actor back with his smooth as butter voice to play Geralt of Rivia in adaptations of The Last Wish and all of the other Witcher books, which I think would be great. I would honestly prefer that just because his voice and his performance as Geralt is just exceptional.
Nice. That's awesome. I tell you, it's cool that it's an adaptation of the book for someone that's really never played the games. And what's really interesting is actually, I think it was Tuesday night, I was over at a buddy's house playing Star Wars Destiny. And in the living room, my other homie was playing The Witcher 3. And so I was watching. I would occasionally come in and watch it. He was playing a little bit of Gwent. He was, riding around on his horse, doing Witcher things. And I was like, this is a very beautiful game. I can see why people are really into this. For me, as someone who's not into the games, to know that it's an adaptation of these great books, that's actually a little more intriguing for me. Because I feel like, for whatever reason, that will be ground level. Like, I won't have necessarily missed out on any lore by not playing the games, which is a really cool, exciting thing. Also, Netflix, like, can we just throw a little bit of love at Netflix for them to, like, to your point, Dan, for them to go to the actual creator? Because I don't know if they had to. I don't know how licensing works or whatever, but it seems like the words, like you said, true adaptation and 30 years and all that, for them to go to this guy and hopefully break him off a fair piece of that Kit Kat bar is really awesome. And I mean, Netflix is not necessarily like a honeypot company, but damn, they do a lot right. And so much love to Netflix and their whole team over there. But I'm pumped for this, man. This seems cool. But let me ask you this. If it goes completely CG, do you feel like it's too similar to the game? Like, doesn't it want to kind of differentiate? It's a hard thing because it wants to, obviously, I don't think the show would exist without The Witcher 3 success, the success that the game had. It just wouldn't be a thing. But doesn't it want to, in some ways, at least stylistically, separate itself from that? What do you think about that?
I think that would be mainly down to Sapkowski's decision and what he wants to do. But on top of that, we also have to consider, like you said, this adaptation likely would not exist without the success of The Witcher 3. So right. I feel like piggybacking off of that and taking good portions of The Witcher 3, like the voice actors, awesome performances from people playing Geralt of Rivia, from playing Yennefer of Vengerberg, Dandelion, Zoltan, all those crazy, awesome characters that we ended up getting in The Witcher 3. Having those people come in and reprise their performance would do nothing but help with the success of it and end up getting game fans even more invested in it. And I don't know how far they're going to go with this adaptation. They might just keep it going until the very end of the books, or they might go past that and go with what Sapkowski himself is writing. I guess it all depends on what they want to do.
Unfortunately, adult-oriented CG TV shows do not see much success. They try them quite often, but I don't know. Have you, like, name your favorite CG TV show aimed at adults? Just now, I think, with this real commercial success of, some more niche adult cartoons, like breaking away from the Simpsons, Family Guy genre with, like, Rick and Morty and things like that catching on. We're going to see more aimed at adult cartoons, but it's still going to take a while before CGI stuff doesn't just seem like this is for kids. That is just a
plus the TV budget. Yeah,
exactly.
I think the level, budget for,
because obviously there are CG movies that appeal to everyone. They at that monetary level, like Disney Pixar, is amazing. But at TV funding level, it's hard to hold that together to make it look like, wow, this looks great, and I'm interested in what these characters are doing.
If they do live action casting, sort of like a fan hopeful cast, they need to get that dude from Mall Cosplay, who cosplays Geralt of Rivia just everywhere, and who actually did the cosplay of him as promotion for Gwent. CD Projekt Red went and got him because he was a successful cosplayer and said, here, go ahead and do some cosplay for Gwent. They need to get that guy, because that guy loves
or Sean
The Witcher.
Bean.
Sean Bean. Well, oh wait, actually, never mind.
So I know that the game Gwent is like a computer card game that's like Hearthstone that you play with like Witcher characters. But it sounded like in your story, Josh, that the guy was playing The Witcher and was playing Gwent in that. Is it a canonical game? Like, do you play Gwent in The
that's
Witcher?
where it started. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Game,
It's a mini game in The Witcher 3, and the mini game was just so popular and so successful among the fan base that CD Projekt Red went and spinned it off and created a whole online collectible card game for Gwent, which actually goes into public beta on the 24th, I think, for Xbox One, PS4, and PC as well. So you'll be able to jump in on that soon.
I wonder if that's from the books. I wonder if the Witchers play Gwent. No, it's not from the books at all.
Nope, it's all from the game.
I'd love for them to throw like a version of it into the show.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I think that,
kind of
that'd be a nice little
blending
nod,
the elements.
I really want it to be live action. Like, to be honest with you, like when I think about it, and like, you know, everything doesn't have to be Game of Thrones-esque, but obviously, like, for the foreseeable future, we're going to compare live action fantasy tone, at least tone, to Game of Thrones because it did it so fantastically. So if we can get some kind of a version of that, like because here's the thing, like in my opinion, there are shows out there like Marco Polo on Netflix, which are like a softer version of Game of Thrones. Like it just doesn't exactly hit all the notes. It's trying to tonally be a clone of the Game of Thrones show, but it doesn't succeed in that. So for The Witcher, I mean, there's a really interesting opportunity there. The magic's way more out in the open. So that could be really, really cool, and stylistically, they could be great. Guys, remember when they were going to do the Legend of Zelda series on Netflix? Do you remember that rumor?
Yeah.
So if The Witcher is successful, because here's the other issue here: video game movies and shows, not doing it, not killing it.
It is rough.
It is rough going. Last year was the big test, right, with World of Warcraft and Assassin's Creed.
Holy crap! I forgot they made a World of Warcraft movie.
Yep.
Jeez, that's not a good sign.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
How was that? Did anyone see?
I have no idea.
I went and saw it. You needed to have played Warcraft 1 to literally understand anything.
Well, that's
so I
bad.
understood it and I thought it was okay, but if you didn't play Warcraft 1, you had no idea what was going on.
Oh, God. Well, that's terrible. That's really bad. So, yeah, so my point being, when it comes to video games, because video games, by the way, guys, let's be real about this. Video games, biggest entertainment industry on the planet. Video games makes more money than movies, television, comics, everything else combined. Video games make more money than it. So, crazy to think that an industry like that can't be properly adapted into other forms of entertainment. It's kind of mind-boggling actually to think about. So that's the other issue here, is that all we need as fans is one of them to be good. That's it. We just need one of them to be good.
That's all we need. I think half of it with a lot of these game series comes from, you know, interactivity being a big thing that ends up pushing you through the game. Like Assassin's Creed, for example, they got a like regular ass new character or whatever, but actually like playing through the first game as Altair and you actually carrying out what he's doing, you end up feeling more connected to the character because you actually have an active hand in what they're doing and their struggles. And I feel like that definitely gets lost in like movies and books and all that. Like I'm playing Nier Automata right now, and half of what makes that game so compelling and so good is the fact that it plays with video game genres, and that's part of the active entertainment experience and part of what makes it engaging, so much so that that could only exist as a video game, and if it ever got released as like a movie or a book, it just simply wouldn't do it justice.
You know, real quick, this just pops off to me. You know what the best video game adaptation, or perhaps I should word that more like better, the video game that nails gaming culture the best in recent memory to me is actually Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise. To me, they missed the boat by not understanding that the respawn factor within that story plays directly into video game culture. So, like, that's just a brilliant science fiction movie in general, but like without really being it, I feel like it's one of the most successful ways to adapt aspects of video games into cinema. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
I didn't see Edge of Tomorrow, so I can't really speak to that. But I'm sorry, but
That's
yeah,
really
definitely taking some of that gamification from things that actually use those video game mechanics in their storytelling would definitely be a good way to end up getting them engaged and all that. Like going back to Nier, if you end up getting destroyed, your android body gets destroyed, but your consciousness is still uploaded to this like floating space station above Earth, and they end up building you a new body, throwing you in it, and you get to go back to your old body and collect all of your stuff that was on you and all of that.
That's
so
kind of
like
cool.
Dark
Walking
Souls
up
thing.
on your old body would be pretty cool.
Yeah, instead of just having it a gameplay mechanic, they end up actually weaving it into the story very well. Like, completely differently from how Borderlands did it, because the way Borderlands handled respawn stations was bad and terrible writing and awful. But Nier actually ended up doing it very, very well. So things like that would be very
Let me ask Dan a question. Dan, if this show ends up being really good, does that open up the door? Does it show maybe the right way to do it? Is that kind of a hope that we can have?
I think, there's a whole bunch of levels to that, but it'll definitely make people more open to it, especially if they go the route of this is like a good story told in the IP of The Witcher.
Right.
So like we were fascinated by The Witcher's IP, where you tell this cool story. If they do the occasional, like if they put Gwent into it and do a little call to the video game, that would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
But for a direct, like from a video game into a movie, we're seeing more of that, especially from the big, Blizzard made that World of Warcraft movie, apparently. That's what I hear.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
But they've been making some really cool cinematics and stuff for one of their newer games, Overwatch, and people all the time are like, we should Overwatch TV show, Overwatch movie, Overwatch TV show, and the guy says, like, we're pretty much open to that, we just don't, like, we don't make movies, you know what I mean? It would be a whole different project to make movies. With the World of Warcraft movie, they at least know how to make one. They made one. If they make a good one about other things, it could be good. That's really what it comes down to, right? Should they make video game movies? Yes, they should make good video game movies.
Right.
Because then they'll be good.
Yeah, it's tough. I would love to see them. I think you're right. Look, there's a subtlety to that formula that no one has really nailed yet, and maybe it's not trying to adapt. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just playing in the world, to your point.
If you saw Hardcore Henry, that was a really good example.
Heard about it, yeah.
That was really cool. If you haven't heard about that, it's like an action movie that's entirely in first person, so it really feels like you're doing kind of an action game. And stuff like that, like, I think that's what we need to do is experiment a little more, which is kind of a dangerous topic for big movies. So maybe in these smaller TV series and whatnot, Netflix and HBO could become kind of like these little labs of the ideal video game adaptation content. Who knows?
Good point. I'm just going to quickly address the chat here. Michael said if it's as good as the CGI in the promotion, it will be super successful, talking about The Witcher. I'd agree. Everything I've seen from them and their CGI team's incredible.
Actually, their launch trailer for The Witcher, their launch CGI trailer they did, is actually a canon part of the story that takes place
from the novels?
No, it's a canon part of the game story that takes place after the very end of their final DLC. So if you beat the DLC and then watch that story, you're like, now I understand this. We saw this character in the story, and like this is the CGI tying up that loose plot thread from the game, and that was great.
For sure. Lindsay Ann says, sounds a lot like Westworld with respawning and interactive players. That's actually a really interesting point, because Westworld kind of toys around with gaming culture a little bit too in its narrative. Once again, like utilizing it without saying it's video game stuff. Like that's video game culture, and we all kind of understand that. Mike 100% agrees gamification is so successful in the modern day. Of course, working in other medias. Let's see here. It's kind of a large comment. Of course, it works in the current entertainment mediums today. Transmedia and gamifying content is the future. I agree with that, actually. There's a lot, especially when it comes to VR. I think there's going to be some very interesting interactive things happening with tech, entertainment, gaming, and whatnot. Chris Gilmore says time is a big factor in why video game movies are bad. I think TV shows can work because they can take the time to explain characters' backstories, etc. That's a fair point.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that in general, some really character-driven stuff just does better in TV. You know, just plainly, developing a character over 14 hours as opposed to 2.
And it's so exemplified by the backstory problem of just having backstories hammered at us again and again and again, because that's all they do is tell us where the hero came from. In this, we can have like a little scene at the beginning. Heck, even the whole first episode, you can knock out your backstory and then start to develop the character in real time, which is what we all want to see.
Yeah, that's true. That's very fair. Very, very interesting. All right, guys, any last-minute thoughts on the Witcher series? Justin, hit me.
I definitely hope it's more Stranger Things and less Iron Fist.
I like that. I like that. Dan, what are you thinking?
I'm, I don't know much about the IP itself, so I'm kind of just interested to learn about this fantasy world. Like, what do the spells look like? Are the effects going to be good? That kind of stuff.
Yep. I mean, my thoughts are Netflix has the dough for show. They should be able to put together at least something that looks really, really beautiful. And if they get the right kind of creatives behind it, could be very entertaining and emotionally awesome as well. So that's where we'll leave it for The Witcher. All right, let's talk DC movies. One more time, we're gonna celebrate. All right, so
The Flash.
The Flash, the movie.
Almost kind of a Is It News segment, right?
True.
Do you get that vibe
for
from
sure.
this?
Here's the thing. As I was doing the show notes, as I was thinking about this topic, the Zimmer, who's the guy, the director? Robert
Zemeckis. He's
Zemeckis,
the lead.
So almost within every story I read, about 2/3 of the way down, there's a statement from his people saying that the story's not true. So it's hard to basically all just talk about Zemeckis as being the director. We will touch on that, but here's the bigger issue, and the thing that I think is actual news when it comes to The Flash, is the fact that The Flash can't do anything right. This movie cannot get going. It's amazing to me that this movie, which did a page one rewrite, lost Rick Famuyiwa. That was colossally bad. I think it's been through 3 or 4 different directors at this point.
As far as I know, they didn't even really sign on 3-4 directors. The first guy bailed, and then they had Zemeckis, who was like, I don't know, I'm busy. And then they talked to 2 other guys who were both like, maybe, no. And now, based on their rejection, Zemeckis is like, quote unquote, the front runner. But as you said, he hasn't shown any like, oh yeah, I'm doing The Flash, or oh yeah, I'm seriously thinking about doing The Flash.
There's nothing even close to confirm that he will be anywhere near that movie. And, there's a lot of interesting things going on here. Kevin Smith threw his name in the hat. He was like, hey, I'd direct Flash. He directed a couple really great episodes of the TV show. So here's the bottom line. This is the question I want to pose to you guys. What is the problem with the Flash movie, and what do you think Warner Brothers needs to do to get this thing under control? Justin, what do you think the main issue is with the Flash movie right now?
I think the main issue with the Flash movie is basically based off of the success of all of their previous movies. Their other movies haven't really done very well critically. Like, a lot of people didn't like Suicide Squad, a lot of people didn't like Batman versus Superman. So the main problem that I think a lot of these directors are seeing is someone's like, hey, do you want to go ahead and direct this DC movie? And they're like, DC movie? Oh, absolutely not. No way. No way.
Yeah.
I don't want to touch that. I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And I think the fact that Kevin Smith has actually said, like, hey, I'll direct Flash. Like, Kevin Smith is the comic book guy. Period. Yeah. He is the comic book guy. Give it to him. Give him the Flash.
Yeah,
if he
I would
wants
give it to him.
Give him the Flash.
Yeah, for sure. Dan, what do you think before I go into because I think the Kevin Smith thing is such a good idea for different reasons, but what do you think the main issue with Flash is? Why can't they nail down, because it's stuck in production hell, development hell, and do you agree with Justin? You think it's a lot to do with what we've been given so far?
I think that's at least a factor. It definitely seemed like they were all set to make The Flash, and then there were some conflicts. And, I've read in a couple of articles that rumors of deep issues with the film began to circulate after the director left. So, did the director leave because the studio is being hard to work with? Did the director leave because he hated the script and they don't want to budge? Or something like that. Could it be just regular movie set drama? Or Does it have something deeper to do with people don't want to sign on to a DC film because they haven't been critically well received? It's important to know that they do make money.
Yes.
We have the Oscar-winning Suicide Squad.
Oh,
and
God.
So they're not like... they're definitely not passion projects, though. And it would be very interesting to see Kevin Smith turn The Flash into a passion project. There, your problem, I think, is Kevin Smith doesn't make summer blockbusters. He has not made incredible, over-the-top budgeted movies. He makes really good, in my opinion. I like his movies. He makes great films, character studies, sort of, but not so much the boom, boom, driving down the street, you know, bat, copter, all that jazz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. My thing is, I think the reason Kevin's a good choice is because, like, you're right, he doesn't do that kind of stuff. He's not good with, you know, the bombastic or the effects or anything like that.
Not that he would do a bad job necessarily, just that's not his portfolio.
I don't think no, it's not, but he knows comics, and I think that if you get the right people around him, like, the reason he's good at, and he's even said this, because I watch his Fat Man on Batman shows occasionally, he's even said this, like, the reason he can plug in to directing the show on The Flash and do well is because it's already pre-established. Like, they have the people doing the effects, that, you know what I mean? They have everything figured out. And if you can plug him in a world, because I think he is a character, an actor's director. I think he can really pull great performances. He's really an emotional guy. Like, you know, there's that ongoing joke about how he cries at everything because he's a big baby, but he's a really emotional guy, and I think that he could pull some great performances out of these things and have a nice sensibility. And if what they're doing, here's the thing, it's the perfect solution if the problem is studio overreach. If Jeff Johns going around there and, you know, the whole DC Warner Brothers team is trying to Kevin Feige this thing, and that's what's turning off these other visionary directors, he might be the perfect solution to that, because he doesn't have like an ego about that sort of stuff. You know, you can bring him in, plug him in. He's a name for leverage, and he'll get out of the way when it comes to visual effects. I think he's my choice for sure.
By the way, doesn't a Flash movie really, like, as soon as I was thinking of the Flash movie and then you said he does emotional work, I was just like, oh wow, what about this? What about this? What about this? Because the Flash, if you're not into his story, has such good interactions with just extremely intense and emotional stuff.
Oh, and he's already done it, dude. Look at the first episode of The Flash he did with Barry stuck in the Speed Force having a conversation with his mother. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
The Flash show is amazing. If they bottle that and blow it up for the big screen, done deal. That would be awesome.
Done deal. Yeah, for sure. Justin, what are your thoughts, brother? I mean, so we've kind of been dialoguing about this. I mean, do you think that...
I think that we lost Josh is what I think.
Maybe he's just lagging for a second. That's a great face. He always picks the best faces to freeze on, doesn't he, guys? In the chat, you know, if you're recording all these for posterity, go ahead and put your favorite Josh's frozen face screenshot in the comments.
Maybe his computer died, but I'll go ahead and just make up a question he was asking and go ahead and address it. Do I think that, you know, Kevin Smith could lightning in a bottle this and end up blowing up the Flash TV series into making it a, you know, actual big feature film? I legitimately do. Like he said, those few episodes he has directed have been ones with huge emotional resonance. And those episodes can definitely give the DC film universe that emotion that it seems to just overall lack in a lot of its productions. Like, we got, you know, Batman vs. Superman, there wasn't really a lot of emotion in that, especially coming from Batman's side. What emotion we did get out of Ben Affleck was unfortunately forced, and I honestly liked Ben Affleck as a choice for Batman, and I thought he really could have emoted given a good script, but he wasn't. And if we can get that from Kevin Smith, get him to, you know, give these actors, you know, good chances to emote and good chances to give us a solid performance, then I think he could be an excellent choice for the Flash. And like Josh said, he's done the Flash before, so he has Flash experience, I guess.
Yeah, so he's got an attachment to it already. So I think that's our last topic, and we lost Josh, so we'll probably sign off for now. Make sure you like this page, check out our YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube if you haven't already. We're the Den of Nerds, and Josh is back just in time to sign off. Sign us off, Josh.
He's not really back.
Trolled! Damn it, trolled. All right, goodbye.
Anyways,
We're done.
Saying.